Hello, and welcome to the November webinar for the Blue Trails Guide website. My name is Faye Augustin, and I'm the Intermountain West Blue Trails Guide Manager for American Rivers. I'm really glad that so many of you are here to join us today for our November webinar, How Do You Pay for It? Innovative Funding and Fundraising. As always, a little bit on technical support. So this is a webinar, so we do appreciate your patience if there is any lagging between slides. As always, your patience is really appreciated. And then if you do have any issues with your connection being lost, or perhaps you're having issues with hearing things, I would recommend logging in using your unique web link and passcode that were provided to you when you registered with GoToWebinar. Additionally, the webinar is being recorded and will be available at bluetrailsguide.org/webinars starting November 20th. To ask a question. So we really encourage you to submit a question at any time during the webinar in the questions box in the GoToWebinar panel on your screen. So while we ask you to feel free to type in any questions you have throughout the entire webinar. We will be holding about 5 to 7 minutes at the end to answer any questions that you have, but please feel free to submit throughout the webinar as questions come into your head. Additionally, we will have some interactive polls and chat box opportunities throughout this webinar. So I really encourage you to participate in those opportunities and provide your insight and knowledge into successes and some challenges that you've experienced when fundraising around your water trail. And finally, as I mentioned before, the webinar is recorded and will be available on the web and this will actually be a transcript of all of the questions, will be available by November 20th on bluetrailsguide.org/blogs. So without further ado, let's jump right into the webinar. And I'm really excited to introduce my colleague, Layla Johnston, who is the Winyah Bay Coordinator for American Rivers. She's located in Conway, South Carolina, and works on the Waccamaw River Blue Trail, as well as a number of other river protection campaigns in the southeastern part of the country in North and South Carolina. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Layla. Layla, I'm going to turn it on over to you.
Perfect. Good afternoon, everybody. I am super excited to be here talking about innovative fundraising. I think it's a question on everybody's mind as we do the great work that we do across the country, as we get really excited about our projects, but we need money to do them. So I want to start out with a poll question for everybody to kind of get us on the same page and understand where different people are coming from. So what is your primary source of funding? Do you get money from private foundations mainly, federal or state funding, membership fees, do you have a general donor base, or is it something else entirely? So you can only choose one here as your primary source of funding. And if you choose other, we would really appreciate if you'd go ahead and just submit it in the chat or question box so we can know where your funding comes from. So we'll take just, about 30 seconds for everybody to get their answers in. I know that there's a diverse set of fundraising and funding options out there. All right, thank you, everybody. So it looks like federal and state funding is our top with 59%, followed by other with 23%, and then private foundations with 14%, and membership fees with 5%.
So Layla, we had a couple of folks respond to the other sources of funding, and those included things like in-kind donations from the community and from volunteers, as well as some impact and mitigation fees. And then some people at this point don't really have one particular type of funding. There's a number of different sources of funding that they are looking at right now.
Great. Thank you, everybody, for sharing so we can kind of see where everybody is coming from. Just a quick update for everybody. The Blue Trails Guide site has a funding database that lets you know a diverse set of federal and state options. Right now, we have over 85 federal and technical funding opportunities and 30 state opportunities that are generally focused in the Intermountain West right now, but we're currently expanding and updating the state funding opportunities out there. So this is just a quick database that we're trying to keep up to date where you can go and check for opportunities in your area and region. It's a great resource on the website, easy to get to, and the link is right there for you, so if you want to jot it down and check it out later. And so poll number 2 for another little interactive minute is, what funding sources have you tried? As we saw on that last slide, and as most of us know, there's a lot of options out there. Some require more effort than others. I know that events are really popular with some people, but they take a really big time commitment. You can be working 9 months to throw one grand event. Or some of us rely primarily on, the donations of our community. So what sources of funds have you already tried to secure? You can select all that apply, because I know a lot of us are trying to dip our fingers in as many pots as possible to get our trails to be successful. So we have federal funds, state funds, they're separate this time, funds from private foundations, events, do you host a big paddle or a big oyster roast? And then other. And again, with this one, if you check the other box, go ahead and submit in the chat or the question box what other opportunities you have tried to secure. These don't necessarily have to be successes, because we know sometimes we go after grants or funding opportunities and we don't always get them. But what have you tried? And just a little bit more time for everybody to participate. Thank you, everyone. So again, federal funds is real high with 65 of you trying that, and funds from private foundations, 80% of us have tried that, followed by events being 55%, state funds 50%, and other being 40%. So just some stories that we would like to share with you guys today, since we're talking about thinking a little bit outside of the box. A lot of us are familiar with the federal and state grant opportunities, but something that comes with those federal grants is often a lot of red tape. My favorite creative funding opportunity that I have heard about, I think, is a wonderful story. And it was a water trail that was created, and they were trying to think of an easy, successful way to raise money for their trail. And so they decided they had built basically, outhouses, general easy bathroom access along the river trail for people to hop out, take care of their needs. And what better way to raise money than to basically auction off naming rights for each of those outhouses. And they ended up raising a substantial amount of money, because the person that won the outhouse that was seen by the most people, that was in the most popular section of the river, bought the right to name that one and named it after a former president. So it's a great opportunity where name it after somebody you hate, name it after somebody you love, name it after your favorite dog, and it's just a really cool idea of something they had the resources to put them in and then made money off of just naming them. So as Faye mentioned, I am in Conway, South Carolina, and I manage the Waccamaw River Blue Trail. It is a 140-mile Blackwater River that runs down the coast of North Carolina and South Carolina and empties into the Winyah Bay. It is an awesome river, and of course I'm a little biased about it since I'm there. And the American Rivers Blue Trail program may be a little bit different than some of our river trails and blueways across the state and country that y'all might work on. So just in case you're not as familiar with the American Rivers Blue Trails program, a blue trail is a river adopted by the community that's dedicated to improving family-friendly recreation and conserving rivers and lands. So a big part of the Blue Trail program is that there is a conservation component. We are promoting ties to the river through recreations, getting family on the water and get them excited about the river to help promote conservation and protection of the river and the lands. The Blue Trails program is voluntary and it's a locally led effort that improves community quality of life. So on the Waccamaw, we dip into many different types of funding. One of the greatest one is private foundation money. We have tapped into local and regional foundations that have supported our work for many years. It's great to form relationships with foundations so they're excited to see what you're achieving each year. They've been very supportive of our work and have helped support things like developing our Blue Trail map so people can see all the access points and all the camping and all the things like that. We developed a video this summer promoting the Waccamaw River Blue Trail, showing people why they should get out there, how beautiful it is, how many different things you can do, all the different types of things you can see. And we had videographers out there shooting locally and interviewing local community members and business owners. And that was supported by a local foundation that actually restricts its funding just to one of the counties that the Waccamaw River flows through. Then of course there's federal and state opportunities. We've utilized federal programs, whether it's been trail planning, having a technical grant supporting work that we're doing, and we've also used National Park Service money to print the maps that we've had and to help us do the planning along the river. Another great relationship we have is working with the counties. Counties don't necessarily always have tons of money to hand out, but they have people who can help. So we've formed great relationships with the planning department, that help us plan the access points, help us get, trash pickup at the different sites, help us, have safe access points, and then also working with the Parks and Recreation Department or the Open Space Board. So with all of those, it's, people and time, and it's also financial opportunities. A lot of our counties receive, they can go after things that nonprofits can't, where it can be, I'm thinking of tourism tax money is one thing that I'm immediately thinking of. And then another thing is most of us have active beautification projects in our areas. So where I am, it's Keep Horry County Beautiful and Keep Georgetown Beautiful. And so we've partnered with them on keeping, safe, beautiful access points and doing, river cleanups together. And then also there's been beautification projects where gardens have gone in, signage has gone in, and the county helps pay for and maintain that. In-kind services is also another big thing that is great to remember. It's not just volunteers. It's relationships where people are happy to help us, whether it's GIS skills and getting your map developed, or people volunteering out on sites, or people volunteering their planning time. There's a lot of people that don't necessarily have tens of thousands of dollars to give, but they have skills that you don't necessarily have on your immediate team, and they're happy to help. We've also utilized interns, of course, in the same type of way as in-kind services. It's a two-way street with that. You're helping them develop the skills that they need. A lot of them want to work in the environmental and recreation field, so you're giving them an opportunity to grow and also using their skills. We've used GIS interns, planning interns, We've also had, green infrastructure interns in the Carolinas, and lots of those things help us achieve the goals of conservation and promoting recreation on these trails. Another funding source on the Waccamaw is using private corporation dollars. We've had a great volunteer group come out from one of our corporate partners and do beautification projects and signage projects. And then also with in-kind services is most of us have active, kayak and boating outfitters on our trails or know of them to help form relationships with. And these are great groups to tap into because they have the capability to be on the river. They love getting new people out there. And I have a great relationship with two of our outfitters out on the Waccamaw River, and they have done so much to help further our efforts. Aside from, their private business gets people excited about this beautiful river flowing through their backyard, but they've also donated boats and guides to different events. At a cleanup that we did in April, one of our outfitters donated almost $800 in services and boats by bringing guides out to donate their time and bringing kayaks out for the volunteers to go out there in. We also did a big event, a big paddle with Sierra Club and some other environmental groups, and another outfitter donated over $1,000 worth of boats and services for that day. So those type of donations of time and their boats and their excitement is really valuable to help promote the river and get people excited, get people out there who then go tell their friends and families about their awesome experiences. So getting off of just the Waccamaw, just to share another success story, so we're not just talking about South Carolina, is a success story about the Hudson River Valley Greenway. I learned about this project this summer and was really interested in some of the different funding opportunities that they have been able to tap into. One of the most interesting was that they have been able to use environmental benefit funds for water trail infrastructure. They were given funds that the state required as mitigation for environmental violations. Ideally, we hope that there's no violations that mitigation is needed from, but the reality is that these mitigation funds are out there and we want to see them used in the watersheds that they're damaging. So by using these mitigation funds, they were able to develop this Greenway program, which was, water and trails alongside the river to help connect the communities out there. Their environmental agency up there enforced the benefit settlement, and they had the money sent to support this program. The Greenway is run by a state entity, but it's not your standard agency that you think of in our bureaucratic state systems. The suggestion coming out of the Hudson River Valley Greenway is that we can work with our environmental agencies to get funds to our groups that can put in water trail infrastructure. So go and form these relationships with people that when mitigation money comes through, they immediately think of our projects. We don't want to just be a surprise that they think of at the very end. It's cultivating relationships so they're already thinking about us and getting people excited about our rivers and our projects. The Hudson River Valley Greenway has also received awards from private companies such as DuPont and American Express that allowed them to create some land trails that connected the land and the water trails here. A lot of private companies have grant programs for trails or will hand out prizes on an annual or even semi-annual basis. Water trails are part of the trail system in New York. So a lot of companies, if it's listed as a trails program, our water trails are already incorporated in that name. People are moving beyond just, the hike and bike trail, that these blue trails are a more common and accepted thing. The Hudson River Valley Greenway has also utilized the Recreational Trails Program, which is a state-level program. You have to check with your state to make sure that water trails are an eligible trail type. It's not true for all of them, so you need to check for your own personal situation. Another suggestion from Hudson River Valley was to cultivate relationships with legislators who appropriate funding. Again, it's building the relationships, and something with this is that it doesn't necessarily take, hundreds of hours every year. It's, when can you get in front of these people and mention it, or do you already have volunteers or members on your board who are friends with these legislators that will think of you, think of your trail, think of your river. Also, a lot of legislators are already tied to their hometown rivers in some way, so it's getting them excited and remembering you and them keeping you in mind. So I really appreciate Scott Keller from the Hudson Greenway project sharing the different funding projects with me that they've done, and it's just some examples to keep in mind. So a third poll is, what funding are you interested in trying? We've talked about some different options, and some things that have maybe crossed your mind and you haven't had the time to try it yet, or you're a little nervous about trying it. And we're really interested in seeing what you're thinking about for the future. So again, what types of funding are you interested in trying to secure? Funds from private foundations, putting on a community event. Again, I hear about oyster roasts, especially out here on the coast. People have shared a lot of large paddles that they've had, that they've successfully hosted. I've also heard about teaming up with beer festivals as our craft beer world is growing so much. We always encourage paddling before imbibing. Another option is a Kickstarter campaign. We've been hearing about people setting up Kickstarters because, getting your local people out there and excited about it. So it's, hey, we're trying to put in this infrastructure. Would you like to donate? Wouldn't you love to see X, X, and X on your river? And it's, you can get a link out there on Facebook and in blogs. And then funds from companies or corporations. Do you have local companies to pursue grants from? I know locally International Paper gives out grants every year. Several of the big breweries that you think of have grants programs. New Belgium has recreation programs, or other. And with these selections in this poll, again, you can click more than one. Maybe you're interested in, hey, going after those money pots with every single one. And if you click the other, again, please submit your ideas. Maybe you have something locally or regionally that's a really exciting opportunity that we would love for you to share with everybody. This is a chance for us to learn and grow from one another. We always want to see everybody's blue trails and blue ways being really successful. All right, thank you again for participating. These polls are just really helpful to see where we're all coming from and how our minds are working. So our top answer here is 92% are thinking about going after funds from companies and corporations. Next, with 75%, is funds from private foundations. 54% are interested in pursuing community events. And then 38% with Kickstarter campaigns. And guys, if you're thinking about doing that, please share with all of us so we can see what you're doing and learn from your success. And then 25% with other. So we are really interested in having you share your stories with us. This is a community here, and we want to share and learn what are the successes you've had, and what are the failures you might have had where you had a great idea and you started doing it, and at the end it was, wow, we didn't know it was going to take that much time, or we got a great grant, but man, the reporting took 3 times as much time as we thought it was going to. Or, wow, we went after a grant that was, really simple and really exciting and great, and they've continued to fund us for several years. And please feel free to go ahead and share your story in the chat or the question box. Or we're also going to be sending out a reminder email for you to share your stories with us so we can share them on the Blue Trails Guide website. Just a chance to share and learn from our successes and our failures. We want to celebrate your successes with you, and we want to learn from one another. So please feel free to share now or share when that reminder email goes out, and we'll be putting together a blog post and a page to share those successes and share those stories. And so wrapping up, since we're about 25 minutes in, I want to give y'all some time for questions. Please let us know if you have any questions. Go ahead and type them in the question box and let us know if we have any questions that we can answer for you. Any funding questions, any things that we can clarify for you right now. And I'm happy to answer anything.
Awesome, Layla. So we've got a few questions coming in, and just a reminder that as you submit questions, please put them in the question box, and we will have answers to all of the questions on the Blue Trails Guide website on our blog, bluetrailsguide.org/blog. There will be a link to the recorded webinar as well as a list of the responses to all of the questions. And if you do have a success story, like Layla mentioned, that you're willing to share with us, we would love to hear about what's worked for you. We'll be doing, again, like I mentioned, some kind of community sharing through our blog posts. So please reach out to us directly, and we'll send a reminder email about that too. But jumping in to the questions that folks have got, Layla, the first one is, with private corporations, what have you noticed that they are willing to fund or help with? Is it things like getting volunteers, or is it more kind of providing funding for specific projects, or both, or something else?
Sure. That's a great question. What we have seen on the Waccamaw is we have had a private corporation send volunteer groups where they have organized a volunteer group, and then we help set them up at a site and with specific tasks to do. The other thing that they have helped fund is signage and beautification. So letting people know, we have Waccamaw River Blue Trail signs that have information and things like that, and they help to fund and pay for those signs to put at some of our most popular access points. And they also paid for beautification of those sites. We like people to use healthy, safe, beautiful sites because it's more common for, more families and more usage than, scary, dark, trashed out graffiti sites. And so those are the successes we've seen. I also know that some of our partner groups on the Waccamaw have gotten private corporation dollars for environmental education and getting school groups out on our river trail. And so, something that ties children out to our rivers has been another popular activity.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Layla. Another question that we've got is, as a new nonprofit, what funding sources do you suggest for starting the work on a blue trail or a blueway or water trail? Without previous relationships with legislatures and being relatively new to cities, what are some good opportunities and good ways to kind of start some of those conversations?
My first thought with that is I think it's really great to cultivate a relationship with your city and counties, and form relationships with Parks and Rec, Open Space Board, whatever they might be called. And your city and your county should both have some sort of group like that. And I think that they're wonderful relationships to have. Another thing I would suggest is looking at regional and local foundations, because they can get really excited about new opportunities to support, especially ones that are going to connect and support your local people. So instead of a project that they're not going to see the benefits of locally, they're going to see, people and infrastructure and access points locally. But I really do, I think that those county and city relationships are really important. And then again, going after those local and regional foundation grants, because I think a lot of times when you're starting out, it's great to go for, you know, pots of money that they're going to be excited to grow with you as you're moving forward. And it's, again, it supports your community.
Awesome. Well, it's about 11:30 Mountain Time, so we've hit the 30-minute mark. So I'm going to hold off on the other questions that have come in, and we will have, again, all of those questions answered on the Blue Trails Guide blog, bluetrailsguide.org/blog, by November 20th, so the Friday of this week. But I want to thank all of you again for joining us this month for our innovative funding for Blue Trails and water trail work across the country. Your input has been really helpful, and Layla, thank you so much for guiding us through this conversation. As I mentioned before, we'd love to hear more of your success stories, so please feel free to reach out to me, respond to the email that I send to you later this week with ideas, suggestions, thoughts, what's worked, what hasn't worked for you. Additionally, we would love for you to join us next month, December, for our 30-minute monthly webinar series. We'll be talking about the economic benefits of water trails and blue trails. So stay tuned for more information on that. As always, thank you for participating, and we look forward to having you join us next month. Have a great rest of your week, and happy early Thanksgiving.